They say grief can feel like a cold river winding its way through your soul, eroding hope with every silent eddy. On a salmon-kissed morning, a lone man stood by the riverbank, his fishing rod forgotten in his hand. Sound. The mist curled around his boots as he stared into the water, thinking of the warm laughter that once filled his cabin. Since his wife passed, each day had felt hollow, a monotony of echoes and empty chairs. Suddenly, something caught his eye. A faint ripple against the current, a shape drifting slowly toward the shore. At first, he thought it was driftwood, but as it drew nearer, he saw mud-smeared orange fur, ragged and soaked, a bobcat cub, bobbing like a frightened leaf. His heart thundered. Without a second thought, he flung aside rod and bait, boots slicing into the icy stream. The water stung, but he barely felt it, his only thought to reach that tiny life. Stretching hands that shook with old grief, he scooped the cub from the swirling water and cradled it against his chest. The cub's chest barely rose. Its breathing was a whisper of air, a fragile sigh in the cold dawn. The man's breath caught as memories of loss flooded him, nights spent staring at an empty pillow, questions without answers. But he would not let another soul slip away. He pressed his gloved palms against the baby bobcat's tiny ribcage and whispered, "Come on, little one, stay with me." His voice trembled like the willows overhead, carrying urgency and compassion in equal measure. He blew gentle breaths across the cub's muzzle, each exhale a plea for life. Time stretched thin, just the river's murmur behind him, and his own ragged breaths. Then a miracle. A soft cough, like a raindrop falling on glass, and water dribbled from the cub's whiskers. Its eyes fluttered open, cloudy at first, then clearing to reveal bright, bewildered pupils. Relief roared in his chest, filling every ache left by heartbreak. He exhaled, the sound catching in his throat, and allowed himself, for the first time in years, to feel hope. He shrugged off his damp coat and wrapped it around the shivering cub, pressing it close to share his warmth. His trek back to the cabin was long and silent. The forest, awakening today, seemed to hold its breath alongside him. Each step echoed a promise he made silently. You will live. At the cabin door, dusk had slipped into night, and the woods stood hushed, save for an owl's lonely call. He stepped inside, and the familiar hush greeted him. Walls that once rang with music, now cloaked in stillness. Gently, he settled the bobcat onto an old armchair, its springs groaning under the cub's weight. From a dusty shelf, he retrieved a soft, worn blanket, spreading it over the seat like sanctuary. By the glow of a half-dead hearth, he knelt and brushed wet fur from the cub's face, fingers trembling with emotion. The fire crackled weakly, dancing shadows across the room, as if telling its own story of loss and resilience. A faint sound, a sigh, a whimper, rose from the cub, and in that instant, the man felt a spark ignite inside him, a fragile ember of purpose. Night deepened around them, and the cub's condition remained dire. Its breaths came in short, shallow bursts. It refused food. The man hardly slept. It refused food. Instead, he sat by the chair, warming a little milk and coaxing the cub to sip. He spoke softly of his wife, her gentle laughter, her gift for finding joy in small things. She always said, "I could care for the smallest creatures," he murmured, voice breaking. "I think she'd laugh to see me now. At times, it felt as if the room itself leaned in, listening. Inch by inch, life returned. A cub's eyes brightened, tracking the man as he moved, its chest rising more steadily. A tiny paw twitched. He allowed himself a small, hopeful smile, though tears shimmered behind his eyes. Days melted into each other, and the cub grew stronger. One morning, the man awoke to chaos, fishing hooks, line, and tackle scattered across the floor. The cub pounced on each item gleefully, its wild spirit unmistakable. Instead of anger, the man felt laughter bubble up, filling the empty cabin with warmth long forgotten. "You little troublemaker," he said, ruffling its fur. In that moment, their bond deepened. Each day, they ventured to the riverbank together. The cub stalked falling leaves, pounced on shifting shadows, then paused and glanced back at the man, as if seeking his smile of approval. "That's it," he'd say, pride swelling in his voice. Back home, the cub would curl on his lap by the fire, purring like a gentle storm, its trust as tangible as the hearth's glow. Word spread through the nearby village. An old man and his rescued bobcat. Children pressed faces against windows. Neighbours whispered in wonder. "Is that a bobcat?" "Nah," one asked incredulously. The man smiled and simply said, "A family." They accepted the unusual pair, drawn to the quiet miracle unfolding in that humble cabin. Then came the storm. A roaring thunderstorm pounded the forest, winds howling like lost souls. In the pre-dawn dark, the cub vanished. the cub vanished. Panic seized the man. The fear of losing again tormented him. He called its name into the wind, stumbling through mud and snapping branches. Hours later, battered and near collapse, he found the cub ensnared in a rusted snare, its leg bloodied and trembling. Kneeling, heart in his throat, he whispered, "I've got you," and tugged the trap free. The cub nuzzled him, pain evident but trust unwavering. Winter thawed into spring, and resilience blossomed. The cub's coat shone again, its muscles rippled as it leapt across rocks by the riverbank. The man, once confined by grief, woke each morning eager to share the day. They had saved each other, two souls bound by loss, by hope, by second chances. Journalists came from far and wide, cameras clicking in the cabin's gentle glow. Reporters wrote of the old man and his bobcat, of small kindnesses rippling outward, inspiring millions. Letters arrived, strangers pouring out gratitude for a tale that reminded them to hold on. One quiet night, the man sat by the hearth, the bobcat curled against his feet, and he opened a letter from a stranger. "Your story reminded me to keep fighting," it read. His eyes glistened, and he looked down at the cub, whispering, "See, little one, you've done more than you'll ever know. Stemo!" Outside, the world slept, but hope burned bright in that small cabin. And now, dear viewers, what does this story mean to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you believe in the power of second chances, like and subscribe for more incredible tales of hope. Because sometimes saving something small can save the world. Every morning, as the first light filtered through frost-tipped pines, the man and his bobcat would slip beyond the cabin's threshold, footprints side by side, in the dew-kissed grass. He taught the cub to leap onto low branches, its sleek body arching like a living arrow. The cub, in turn, taught him to hear the forest's secret symphony. Each trill of hidden songbirds, the whisper of new green buds unfurling, the steady heartbeat of the land itself. Together, they explored sun-dappled clearings where wildflowers bowed in the breeze, and twilight glades where fireflies danced their tiny lantern-led ballet. In those shared moments, sorrow felt less like a shadow and more like a companion, reminding him that loss and love often walk hand in hand. He built a small wooden plaque at the cabin's gate. "A courage comes in quiet packages." Each visitor who arrived, reporters, neighbours, travellers, would pause to read it aloud, smiles touching tired faces, hearts lifted by its simple truth. Letters still arrived, stories of people nursing wounded hearts, finding a spark to keep going. And every time he saw one of those letters, he thought of the cub's first trembling breath and the current purr vibrating through its chest, by the hearth. So, now whenever the river's surface glints like shattered mirror, he remembers that day when hope drifted on the current in the form of a fragile life. And as the cub pads along beside him, eyes bright with tomorrow's promise, he knows that sometimes the smallest rescue can become the greatest adventure, and that every new dawn holds the chance for healing, for wonder, a story yet untold. What will your next chapter be? Yeah!